It's really hard and expensive to push food out across this country. We are a geographical expanse. Grocery stores are localized. We've gone into some stores that it was a mistake because we don't have any boots on the ground to go into the stores and be like, hey, why aren't you reordering? Hey, why do we have 4 flavors, but they're in 4 different places on the shelf? Why are they not all together? And that's where the grocery game is won or lost at the local level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retail Remix. If you've ever stood in front of a wall of products at the grocery store, whether it be cereal or sauces or drinks, and felt overwhelmed by the endless labels claiming to be clean, natural, or gluten-free, you are not alone. And today's guest is going to help us cut through that noise. For decades, Anna Vocino has been a working actor and stand-up comedian, but after a celiac diagnosis in 2002, she decided to take matters into her own hands and kitchen. What started as a personal quest for better recipes turned into a series of best-selling cookbooks and a high-growth CPG brand that is currently on shelves at over 1,300 stores. Scaling a CPG brand in a market dominated by giants isn't just about the recipe. It's about having the audacity and grit to call BS and offer an alternative. And today, Anna is going to tell us how she's doing just that. Welcome back to Retail Remix. I'm your host, Nicole Silberstein, editor-in-chief at Retail Touchpoints. And today we are joined by entrepreneur extraordinaire Anna Vocino. She's a comic, a voice actor, a cookbook author, and the founder of the clean food brand Eat Happy Kitchen. Anna, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I also forgot to mention that you are a podcast host. The list just goes on and on. How do you handle so many different jobs at one time?
Well, I don't have to do any one of those jobs for 8 hours at a time.
That helps.
Yeah. If I were to podcast for 8 hours straight, I would be dead by the end of every day. But no, listen, you schedule it, you work it out. And I also feel like it's, as an entrepreneur who's also a creative, it's a work in progress. I will go down the YouTube rabbit hole trying to watch other productivity experts, maybe who have some tips on how to manage my calendar. So the short answer is, I'm not sure. I just schedule and get as much done as I can. And whatever I didn't get done today wasn't meant to be done. And that's what I have to tell myself so I can sleep at night.
Do the YouTube rabbit hole dives ever actually help you improve your productivity? Or is that something we should just avoid?
No, I mean, sometimes, most of that kind of stuff is, if you get a little nugget that helps you, that's great. Listen, I'm a firm believer in buying books, reading books, watching the video. I'd rather listen to the nuance in the video and have it playing in the background while I'm curling my hair before I go on a podcast, and maybe I'll get some tips or some inspiration. Just take it where you can get it, So
now, we're here today really to talk about Eat Happy Kitchen, but before we really dig into the product and retail side of your work, I do want to ask about one of your latest acting gigs as the voice of Mrs. Potato Head on Toy Story 5.
Kind of a big one, right?
Yeah, it's a big one, and it's too much fun not to ask you about. So, because I imagine a lot of our listeners, like myself, are pretty far removed from the world of Hollywood. So please, just for a second, take us a little bit inside the glitz and glamour. Tell us what it was like to become part of such an iconic franchise.
Well, for me, I didn't even believe it was true or happening, because I had put on my goal list for probably, 15 years, voice a role in a Pixar movie. And that's just not something that you ever expect to come true, because it is it's a tough nut to crack. So yeah, I always say I'm very lucky because I have a super cool day job, and my day job helps me to have the freedom to grow Eat Happy Kitchen the way I want to grow it. So I am able to, go voice things. So when Pixar calls, you get on the plane and you go to Pixar, which was an incredible experience. So yeah, I auditioned. Wow. The late, great Estelle Harris, who we all know and love as Mrs. Potato Head. She was George's mom on Seinfeld. Fabulous actress, insanely large voice. Her voice is just so incredible. So when she passed away, they didn't know that there was going to be another movie. Sure enough, there's another movie. So I auditioned and I got it. And even after I did the job, I was like, I'm sure I'll be replaced. I don't know. I had this in my head, there's no way this is real.
Yeah.
And so when they finally announced it, I was like, it's real. I'm in it.
That's so cool. So, I can't wait. So you said it's out June 19th, right?
June 19th. See it in theaters, June 19th.
Yes,
I'll do my little promo voice.
Let's go to the theater to see it, right?
Let's go to the theater to see it. I mean, it's going to be great in the theater. It's Toy Story.
I know. It's just so fantastic. And they've done such a good job just continuing, I think, the franchise. I'm very excited as a mother of young children for this one because it is a lot about that screen time challenge, I think. So I'm very curious how Pixar tackles that.
It's so great. The movie's so great. I'm not going to give anything away, but the movie is so great. It's really good. It's Pixar. They know how to write a movie.
Yes. We got to get down to business though. So
yes,
by all measures, you've got this great multifaceted career in entertainment. Why the heck would you then take on the gnarly world of food production and retail on top of that?
It is gnarly, isn't it?
It is.
You're not wrong about that. That's an apt description. Here's the thing. When you're an actor, there's a lot of time spent waiting for the phone to ring. So you could be super busy working on a series and then nothing happens for 3 or 4 months, maybe even 6 months, maybe even a year. And it's excruciating. Actors are always at the bottom of the totem pole, which is so funny to me because we don't watch anything or listen to anything without actors. So they're very important to storytelling. And yet the way the system is set up, we're very disempowered. But one thing the internet's given us is being able to create content. And so I think it was early on when Gary Vaynerchuk wrote his first book, Crush It. I saw that book and it was the first time it lit up a thing in my brain going, maybe there's a world where I can marry being on camera and all the food stuff that I like with comedy, with, who I am as a person. And I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2002, which the only solution for that is just to not have gluten. That's the only prescription that the doctor gives you. Luckily, there's no medication involved or anything like that. But the way you recover and manage it is to not have gluten. So I was on a mission from the gods on Mount Olympus to figure out how I could make gluten-free food taste good because it didn't at that point in time, the stuff that was available in the stores. Now, that being said, fast forward 10 years to 2012, I met Vinnie Tortorich. He was training me and he called me, said, let's start a podcast. I've heard you produce podcasts, which I had since 2008. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. It's a lot of work. And then he sent me his book and it was so good. Something in me said yes. And I'm a reluctant yes sayer because when I do say yes, I'm going to go all in. And so I joke that, he kind of forced me into it, but I said yes. And I got in there and that changed the trajectory of not only my career, but my health journey as well. Because in making gluten-free foods, I was eating a lot more carbohydrates and I was pushing the type 2 diabetes diagnosis. I was pre-diabetic. My thyroid was shot, like things like that, which sometimes is normal in aging. And then sometimes it's due to an abuse of excess processed foods. And in my case, probably a combination of the two. But since I quit processed sugars and grains due to Vinnie's teachings, I thought, well, what if I refocus all of my recipe writing to be this? And then in 2016, my first cookbook came out and then it kind of all progressed from there. So,
yeah,
and I still have this ability to do a really cool day job.
And interestingly, your first product in your food line was a product that is naturally gluten-free, though. It was the marinara sauces, right?
Yeah.
So tell us why you started there, how the brand has expanded both category-wise, but also at retail since then.
Yes. So I had a listener call me and it's because you could set up consults back in the day. I don't do consults anymore, but he paid for a consult and I got on the phone with him and he said, I'm a food manufacturer and I want to be part of the solution. I want to stop, let's do your marinara sauce. I want to make stuff that's clean. I want to be part of the solution. And I recoiled because I was like, well, doesn't everybody make their own? Like what? I can't do that. Who am I? I have no business doing that. And he said, no, ma'am, have you walked down an aisle of a grocery store? People don't make their own marinara sauce. And I had to admit that I had not walked down the aisle because as an Italian woman, you would not, or an Italian American woman, I'm second generation American. So no, I had not walked down that aisle. And then I looked at what was available and there's a lot of sugar added. There were a lot of chemicals, seed oil, all the classic bastardization, making something ultra processed so that they could have a profit and it wouldn't be necessarily a good product. So I thought, well, it has to taste like I snuck in their kitchen and made it for them. Like taste is always number one with me. I won't release a recipe if it's like, meh, why bother? Because we're not going to eat it. We're not going to stick to a thing. So it all kind of launched from that. And we made 500 or 600 jars for our first run. And I freaked out saying, how on earth are we going to sell that many jars of sauce? And we did. We sold out and we made more and we sold out and we made more, continue. But what I noticed happening, and this is how we got into retail, was that there was a certain amount of breakage and it was also very expensive to ship. And when we first started, we had to pass the shipping along to our customers. So I tell you what, building a community is very important because who else but your community will be nice enough to be like, we're going to support your product and also pay for the shipping.
And the shipping of
so
something
insane.
Really heavy too.
Insanely
Not cheap shipping.
Expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it all kind of grew from there. And then I thought, well, I think we need to start to try to get into grocery stores. And then what I learned from that, which is a million things that I'm sure we'll talk about, but was, we need to have more flavors. You don't just want to have one flavor. You want to have more shelf space. So we developed the pink crema. We developed the puttanesca, which won the pasta sauce of the year in 2024. So we developed as we learned. And now, we're in over 1,300 retailers, about to announce a bunch more, but I can't yet because I'm paranoid. I'm still of that thing. You don't want to tell your family that you were in the McDonald's commercial until the McDonald's commercial airs in case you get cut out. And then you're like, you know what I mean? The worst thing as an actor is when you get that call, like, I didn't see you on The Office. You know what I mean? Like, you're like bragging that you got a role in something. And then I always waited. I learned to wait.
And then you end up on the cutting floor. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just devastating. Yeah.
And so you still feel like that in retail too. You're just afraid that you don't want to jinx it.
I will not make a claim on anything until it's out there.
Physically in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you've expanded beyond sauce now too, right? You have a couple of other...
Correct. Against the advice of some of our strategic advisors, we've gone into multiple categories. And the reason is I have the luxury of having a direct-to-consumer audience via my cookbook fans. In fact, those folks invested in my company. That's the only sort of fundraising that we've done as an equity crowd fundraise. And first of all, we make sure whatever it is that we're launching is amazing. So I would not launch anything to my audience that I was not so excited about. But we decided to launch spices, and then we launched cheese bite snacks, which are just cheese with our spices. All this stuff is stuff I've been making in my kitchen for years. And then I go and find somebody who can, scale it up, who gets the memo of like, let's not put any fillers, junk, sugar, all that, no chemicals, no anti-caking agents, no. When you get a pouch of ranch, let's say, or a pouch of taco seasoning, it usually has like cornstarch or maltodextrin or something that fills out the package. So it makes it feel like you're getting something substantial, because if it was just the spice, you'd be like, well, that's dinky. I'm not going to do that. So we've figured out a different way to package it so that the customer knows that they're getting a good thing. So anyway, we launched into those categories because I, as a consumer and a mom, am looking constantly for what can I do a cleaner, more delicious version of that I've been making all my life anyway. And spices fit into that category. And the cheese bites I had been making for years as well.
Okay, so you kind of started to touch on this a little bit, but when we first spoke, we talked about the trickery that's happening on food labels these days. And even short of trickery, as a consumer, I often find myself really like confused and overwhelmed by all the tags and little badges on labels out there right now, what they mean, whether the claims are even true. So tell us a little bit more about how you're tackling that with your brand, both in the way you make your products, but also how you talk about them on the shelf.
Thank you. This is such a tricky area that there's trickery, there's marketing speak, there's what's allowed in the CFR, which stands for the Code of Federal Regulations. So the FDA and the USDA have regulations that all food manufacturers need to abide by. Like with any business, there are unscrupulous people who are going to figure out how to insert something that is known as grass, generally regarded as safe, how they can squeeze a cheaper ingredient in and then take out a little bit. Yeah. For example, the shrinkflation we all talk about, where the toilet paper rolls used to be like this wide, and then they know how to shave it off just like 3 millimeters so you don't really notice, but then they can fit more rolls into that sheet of paper, things like that makes sense. I understand why businesses do it, but what's happened is that with food, we've become so just blindly trusting that the food that they would put on the shelves is good for us, because why would they sell us something that's not good for us? Why would they sell us something that makes us sick? Where I've found, at least for myself, let me speak for myself. When I get hurt or baffled by somebody else's behavior, it's generally because I'm running what they did through my own moral compass, right? Through my own value system. So we all go, well, why would you sell food that makes you sick? I don't value making money over being a good person. So I assume you do the same. But guess what? they don't. So
Yeah.
that's a
Some
big
people
learning
don't.
thing. Some people don't.
Yeah.
So, and also I like to highlight on my Instagram other food companies who are doing a good job of like making a nice thing and trying to be the change on the grocery store shelves. Cause obviously I'm not going to do it all by myself. Like there's got to be a big mass uprising of food manufacturers and emerging brands who want to do this, and grocery store buyers who care enough about the cause to give those emerging brands shelf space. But I know I got far from what the question was, but how do I make sure that the trickery is not part of what I do? I mean, part of my job, the reason why I continue to podcast, why I write on my Substack newsletter, why I'm doing stuff on social media and posting videos is when I see egregious amounts of marketing that looks like trickery, I like to call it out. There's also, you mentioned, well, pasta sauce is inherently gluten-free. Now you eat it with pasta, usually, I don't, but you eat it with pasta, which has gluten, right? Great, fine. And that's how it should be. That's the traditional way of eating it. So what drives me nuts, because there's also this I am a comic. I look for the things that make me go, what? Like, that's so dumb. Why do we do that? Pasta sauce that's certified gluten-free. It's like, well, it's all gluten-free. We're not putting flour in pasta sauce. So you kind of roll your eyes, but there are people with celiac like myself who need to see that certification on there. So certifications are important for strangers to know that what you're making is clean. Now that we're on grocery store shelves, I can't assume that people trust that there is real extra virgin olive oil in our sauces. So we went ahead and took the extra step of getting seed oil free certified and sending the oil to the lab and making sure that it's tested to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt by a third party company that it is seed oil free. So, I think the certs are important. I think the certs have gotten out of control. There's, when you get the product, it has so many bugs on it. I think that a friend of mine brought a candy over. I'm too scared to say it because I don't want to get sued. It was a candy from our childhood that now has a non-GMO certification on it, but it says made with a real cane sugar. I'm like, great. So we're supposed to be like, yay, it doesn't have corn syrup. Okay, I guess that's a victory, but it still has wheat in it. It still enriched wheat. And I'm like, okay, it's non-GMO certified. Does that mean that it's healthy?
Right. Well, so do you, on your labels, do you call like your marinara sauce, do you say on your label gluten-free?
I say no gluten. We did not pay to get gluten-free certified on the marinara. We've paid to be gluten-free certified on our cheese bite snacks because we felt in the snack category that was very important.
Right.
To pay for that. That's the other thing. As an emerging brand, the certs are very expensive. So we have to be choosy about which ones we do because the whole supply chain sometimes has to be certified. We have to make sure that, I am like a hawk with all of our ingredients and sourcing on all the products. And every time, by the way, I say to my co-founders, hey, I want to do a mayo. They're like, no, you're not allowed. Hey, I want to do dressings. They're like, ma'am, you need to settle down. Because every time I say we're going to do a new product, it's 2 years of work from every angle,
Of sourcing,
but we are going to do mayo. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, great. Well, you kind of mentioned too, like breaking into grocery is no small feat, especially in a category like sauces, just known for that wall of kind of competing offerings. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in getting your product not necessarily into consumers' hands, because you do have the whole DTC arm of your business, but like getting their attention now that you are a part of that wall?
It's huge. I think something that I've learned that people don't know is that whenever you see a sale tag at the grocery store is not paying for that. The brand is paying for that every time without exception. So, and that's very expensive. So the math doesn't always math with regards to I'm selling my pasta sauce for a wholesale amount to a distributor. Then they sell it to the store. At that point, I don't even own the pasta sauce anymore. I've sold it to the distributor. I don't get to have the final say in what the shelf price is going to be. So if I sell it to the distributor for cost and then they sell it to the store for a cost, the store needs to have a certain margin that they get. Then we come up with a promo plan. So that's when you see like 4 times a year, your favorite pasta sauce, maybe it's 2 for $8 or it's on sale for $1 off or it's a BOGO. It all depends. There's all sorts of creative things. And the whole thing is designed to get somebody to go, I've been seeing that brand, but I haven't been willing to try it because it was on shelf for $10.99. Now it's $8.99. I'll try a jar. It's called driving trial. So you want to drive trial and get people who haven't tried your brand to try it. In the meantime, I'm hitting it from all angles on social media, on my podcast, explaining, what the brand stands for, how it's delicious, how it's clean. And I'm repeating that messaging until I'm blue in the face, right? So that when you're in the grocery store, getting in is difficult. Staying in is 10 times harder because you are competing. Let me give an example. So Rayo's sold to Campbell's a few years back for a reported 2.6 or 2.7 billion with a B dollars. Okay. So Campbell's has Campbell's bucks, right? They could afford to leave Rayo's on special forever and have it be a loss leader because they have these other categories that make them a lot of money. And then they have computers, data, really smart people, Wharton MBA grads who go in and say, you know what, if we do this thing here and that thing, we don't have that at Eat Happy Kitchen. We've got Anna and Matt and Todd, my co-founders, and Megan, who's my sales director. And then luckily we have some strategic advisors, but nobody's sitting there crunching numbers on behalf of Eat Happy Kitchen going, okay, well, if we carry the one and then, we can do this 17-cent thing here. So we are trying to then spend as little money as possible because we're not in a place where we can hemorrhage cash. This is also why our direct-to-consumer sales are so important for us because we need that margin, that we need that padding. So when people go to the site, they're like, your sauce is so expensive on the site. Yeah, it is. Or else we'd go out of business. Like that's just plain and simple. Like that's it. That's where it's done. And that's why you'll see also, we don't want to compete with our retail partners because part of us being able to grow a brand is that we drive traffic in store. So every time, that's another thing we do. I spend tens of thousands of dollars every year traveling the country, going around demoing, doing book signings, getting people in store, come in, let's sell these guys out. Let's spread the word. I got to get people trying the product because I know when they try the product, they're going to switch for life because it's the best tasting.
You hear that, people? You got to try it.
Got to try it.
Yeah. So, even in stores, your products are positioned at a premium price point.
Correct.
In an economy where so many consumers right now are tightening their belts.
It's ouchy.
How do you convince a shopper standing in front of that wall of sauce that freshness, clean ingredients are worth that extra money over a familiar legacy brand?
Well, one thing that we're doing is effective the end of May of 2026, as in the year of our Lord as we're recording this. I'm saying that in case somebody listens to it down the line. We're actually one of the few brands that's lowering our price into the distributor. And the purpose of doing that is to get a lower shelf price. Now, what I've come to find out is what I mentioned earlier is that we don't get to have a final say on what that shelf price is. So I am tirelessly working with all of our buyers and all of our accounts to kind of throw myself at their mercy and say, please lower us to a shelf price. Please don't pocket this extra cash. We're lowering our price, but if you're pocketing the extra cash and we don't lower our price and get more sales at the shelf level, you're going to be decimating an emerging brand. So I'm kind of like, I'm purposefully using that language with them. Most of them get it. They know that they can go over here and do something with other big, large conglomerates and get some money over there so that they can do this thing with us because they believe and they want to be a part of the solution. Most buyers want to be a part of the solution. So we're actually lowering our price. Doesn't matter. We still get complaints,
Who complains? People who...
Shoppers complain about prices. And I get it. And I'm like, I know it's really crazy. I actually heard an interview with a sauce category manager from a large natural retail chain. On an interview, she mentioned, we're looking for mid-grade pasta sauces. We have so many premium brands. And I'm thinking to myself, lady, you can't produce nice pasta sauces without it costs money. You know what I mean? To not put the junk in.
It's an either or thing. There's no middle ground.
Right. Yeah. So there's some sauces on the shelf that have tomato paste, which is a concentrate, water, sodium, maybe a few dried herbs, and cheap oil. And it's real cheap, and you get what you pay for.
And most of them add sugar to give it a little
sugar
flavor.
For flavor, to cut the acid of the concentrate. Yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do. And food scientists and food formula people are very smart. They know how to make these things in a way that's going to be profitable. And then they can put it all into the algorithm and crunch the numbers. And they figure out, okay, if we make, this much percentage off of this thing, we can sell it for. Somebody said, how about Trader Joe's? It's like, how about it? We love Trader Joe's. Their pasta sauce is $2.69 to $3.69 on shelf. We're never going to get there. Not with the product that we're making. And I love Trader Joe's. I want to marry Trader Joe's, but I can't. for my business.
No, technically, I think nobody probably can. So,
Yeah. So, this is why I say too, our partners at Kroger, and God, I hate calling it because I think all of our retail partners that we're with, I love them all, but I got to hand it to Kroger. So we're in 6 of their banners on basically the Rocky Mountains westward, right? All the Kroger owned banners. And they really do walk the talk of supporting emerging brands, but it's still an expensive account for us from the sense that that's conventional grocery, and people who go into conventional grocery aren't really apt to do brand discovery. You would walk into a Sprouts or a Whole Foods or an Erewhon looking for brand discovery, right? You're like, I want to find a cool snack. And you might not necessarily think that walking into Ralph's here in LA, but they are really making a push for that. And I think that that's super cool. And I'm glad that we're a part of it. I hope that we can continue doing that.
Yeah.
And we're at the mercy of making sure that our audience buys enough so that every category review can stay on shelf. Because that's the other thing. It's reviewed every year.
Right.
Your
All of those
performance review.
partnerships. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that regard, you have a great support system in your low carb army, as you call them, your community of fans who have supported you before you were ever in any grocery store. And you also, as you mentioned, just raised $675,000 with them via crowdfunding campaign, which means they now actually literally own a piece of the company, which I find really cool.
Yeah. And tell me they own me.
Yeah.
And they're not wrong.
And in a way they do. So how does having your fans, your community as investors in the business change your approach to taking risks or making changes or making decisions like you were talking about price point and labeling?
It's exciting. It's fun. It doesn't change my strategy. I have an instinct for what needs to be done, and I take everyone's feedback under advisement, but ultimately I'm the decision maker. So it's like that thing where if you ask for feedback, everybody has an opinion, and that's great. Look at it, take it in, but ultimately you have to make your own decision. So I said to them, do not invest in this company unless you're in it for the long game. I'm in it for the long game. You guys have watched me build this from day one. I'm in it for the long game. So you have to know if you're investing in this company, you trust me to make those decisions. So, and I think, listen, eventually we're going to have to do a larger raise. We need more money if we're going to grow nationally. That's one of the darker secrets of the food business. It's really hard and expensive to push food out across this country. We are a geographical expanse. Grocery stores are localized. We've gone into some stores that it was a mistake because we don't have any boots on the ground to go into the stores and be like, hey, why aren't you reordering? Hey, why do we have 4 flavors, but they're in 4 different places on the shelf? Why are they not all together? You know what I mean? And that's where the grocery game is won or lost at the local level. And that costs money. So eventually, I will say right now, I'm currently raising again. And
Right.
I've been told
But
it will never stop.
But not crowdfunding this time, right?
Not crowdfunding. No. I want to keep that as that's a sacred thing with my people who got in, and I'm not going to dilute. And now it's time to go for institutional strategic investment.
Are there any skills that you've honed in your decades in acting and improv that you find yourself drawing on as you move into this very different type of work?
All the time.
Like what?
I learned something. So my job as an actor is to come in and set everybody in the audition room at ease. Okay. And I learned this very early on when I was on a series and I sat in, we had to replace one of the lead actors and I had to sit in because we had to do chemistry reads. And I could then see the energy that somebody brings in when they walk in the door. And it sounds woo-woo, but it is real. This one feels desperate and I was scared for him. This one feels smarmy. This one feels like he's got a chip on his shoulder and he doesn't want to be there. This one feels like, he put me at ease. I like that guy. Sure enough, that guy and another guy are the final 2 to, and I learned a lot about what my job is. And it's even crazier in voiceover because you're basically auditioning in your own home studio. I'm pointing behind me because my booth is behind me, as you know. you're auditioning and you have to send it out and you have 2 seconds. You have 2 seconds for them to like hear it and know this is the voice that I want. It is a numbers game, but you got to be good so that when they listen for longer than 2 seconds, you have a shot at it, right? So that kind of energy is really necessary. And I also say, if I can tell jokes at 1 a.m. at Flappers in Burbank to 4 drunk people, I could talk to a humorless grocery buyer on a Teams meeting. So putting that into that energy. And then I took a class on negotiating. Okay.
Ugh,
And I learned that I don't mind it.
Really?
Because I'm very win-win. Let's do it. I don't mind it. I think it's kind of fun. I don't have a problem talking about money and talking about numbers. Like, I'm totally fine with it. But what I learned was the grocery buyers are trained to extract as many pennies as possible out of their suppliers. And they're trained to not give in the face. Like, they don't give anything. And which made sense because one of the very first pitches that we did was to a Walmart buyer, and she did not give a thing. And honey, I was upset because I was like, how do I not win? I didn't win this room. Like, what's going on? Like, even if you don't get the party, you don't get the thing, you at least want to for me, I want to connect with people. That's
some
the
kind
most
of reaction.
fun thing. Something. She didn't give a thing, and she was good and she was young. And I was like, girl, what is this? Who are? And then I found out, well, Walmart in particular, every quarter they send their buyers to negotiating training, and they're trained to not give. And they even have a thing called the Walmart wince where they go, I don't know, I can't, that thing. I can't do it. And I know I'm calling out Walmart, but we all know, we've all heard the stories about Walmart, but it contextualized it for me about, you know what, it's their job to not give. And if somebody's going to be warm and responsive, that's a more joyful way. It helped put me more at ease because I didn't understand, why don't people just want to talk to people? And then I realized it's because if they warm up, they're setting expectations up to the person who's pitching them that maybe it went well, maybe they're going to hang their hopes, and you just can't. And I'm like, I get it. I'm old enough now to understand that mostly you're not going to win, but then you do. But then mostly you don't, and then you do. And then you start to get a little critical mass. And then you're back to this, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And that's just part of it. And that's okay. But it helped me to contextualize why all this media training wasn't working on some of these buyers. I was like, whoa, cold fish. But now I know why.
All right. Now, before we let you go, I have just a few final quick questions for our mixtape rapid fire section.
I love a mixtape. Thank you.
I know. I do like that reference too. The first one I think you may have already answered, because the first one is, what category are you going to tackle next? You said mayo.
I want to do mayo, but it might be dressings. Dressings, there's less cooking involved, although one I want to do my version of a Caesar. I want to do mayo, and here's why. Clean oils and good taste apparently don't go that well together in the mayos that are on shelf. And I know that I can do my homemade version of mayo as long as I find the right manufacturing partner who won't mess with anything. You know what I'm saying? So mayo. Yeah.
I hope you pull that off. I need a better mayo than the one I'm buying right now.
The clean ones generally don't taste the way I want them to. Let me put them that way.
What's one thing that you would never attempt to cook yourself?
Oh, that I would never attempt to cook myself?
Yeah. You obviously tackle cooking of all types. But is there... Oh, yeah. Something super fancy like that?
Yeah. I don't do the fancy gluten dishes. I don't do it. My friend is a food producer and she does all that, and I love it and I admire it. But yeah. Let me put it this way. Bake a loaf of bread. And now I'm qualifying this by saying, obviously I don't eat gluten. I'm celiac.
Right.
But there's now this whole movement of baking gluten-free sourdough. I wouldn't do it because I would eat only that until the end of time with butter.
If you're stranded on a desert island and you can only bring one of your products to live off of, which would it be?
That is such a rude question. What to live off of?
Yeah, it's the only thing you are going to have besides what you can find on the island to eat.
Well, I guess the cheese bite snacks because they have protein. So that's good.
I thought you would have said one of your sauces because then you could add it to
I went clam digging and now I can have some clams and red sauce.
It could spice up like foraged weeds and stuff.
Or like the ranch dust, because ranch is good on everything, including, hearts of palm with
That's true.
Toucan. I don't know. What do you eat on a desert island? Sorry, toucan
I don't know,
lovers.
but okay.
I just hunted your bird.
All right, let's go with cheese bites though, because that was your first answer, because this is where it gets fun. So continuing that theme and imagining that product, so one of your bags of cheese bites, becoming a Wilson-like companion a la Castaway.
Oh, yes.
What kind of a character and voice would that product have?
Oh my God. Oh gosh.
Now this, I'm really putting you on the spot, but you do improv.
I'm thinking it's cheese. And so I'm thinking a good, because my grandparents, they settled in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and they came over from Puglia, Italy, and they settled in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So I feel like because it's cheese bites, we're going to go here with her voice. And she would just be the nicest gal. And she would just say nice things to you. Like, you know what? You look pretty today. Your hair is it's beachy, but not messy. You look.
Or also you're going to live through this.
You're going to get through this, hon. What we're going to do is figure out the smoke signals and get that. There's boats going by and we're going to get their attention. And don't you fret one bit, honey. Yeah, that's what.
That's
so where
perfect.
She would live.
So perfect. Okay.
Glad I pulled that out of my ass.
I don't know how we continue after that, but I do have one last one that's a little more serious. Okay, so not everybody is an actor. Most of us are not. But we do all have to kind of enter situations where we feel like we're vying for something. Many of our listeners probably have had the similar experience of you of sitting down in front of a Walmart buyer, right? Or situations where we feel like we might be judged. So the last thing I want to get out of you is advice, auditioning tips that you think could apply to real life. How can we all enter these situations a little bit more confidently?
The biggest tip, and I learned this from a fellow actor named Andrea Anders, who's also a dear friend, get out of there as fast as you can. Here's what I mean. When it's done, don't linger. Don't look to them for feedback. Say, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to give you this time back. Unless you have any questions. This is assuming you've said all the things in your pitch that you need to say. But one of the things that she does that I learned from her, and I do this now too, is when you're there in the room, you do your scene, say thank you, get your stuff, leave. If they want you back, they'll say, oh, hold on, we wanted to ask you about, blah, blah. They will ask you. If they're not interested, then you've exited the room gracefully, given the time back to them and leaving them wanting more. I guess that's the message. Leave them wanting more.
Right.
Julie, it's a ninja tactic.
On that note, we're going to gracefully exit this conversation. Thank you, Anna, so much for being here today, bringing a little bit of Hollywood flair and fun to our business podcast. It was so much fun to have you.
Thank you, Nicole. It was a blast. I appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'd love to continue the conversation, as always, on LinkedIn on the Retail Touchpoints page. Share your own grocery store or ingredient horror stories and let us know who you want to hear from in future episodes. Also, what you want Anna to make next for your kitchens.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Until next time, keep mixing it up.